David.
Elizabeth, what I'm sitting out on the lawn with you.
I know.
In March.
In March, and it is very toasty.
Yes, particularly
and,
with a heavy coat on.
Well, yes, but one cool breeze, and all of a sudden,
It'll be gone.
it's just, I'm going to be shivering right here.
Gone with the sun, like on Sunday.
Or gone with the wind. There you go.
We could make a movie.
I like this banter. I really do. But it is March.
But we do have something to do.
We do. We do. And I know you're very busy, so I don't want to take up your entire day as much as I would love to. But it is March, and March is the month of the official release of your pioneer interviews, your founders videos. So I think it would be fantastic to hear what you had to say about all of these videos, to really get an idea of kind of your perspective behind interviewing some of your peers and your friends. So what was one of your favorite moments of interviewing Diana Lett?
Who knows? I mean, in reality, I had no idea what it would mean to do interviews. I mean, I've been interviewed hundreds of times.
Hundreds, yeah. Thousands even.
No, probably not. But whatever the number is, but I've always been on that side of the mic. So I had to start figuring out what the skill set was supposed to be of doing an interview. I mean, a little like what you're having to do today.
Right. But the videos still all look so authentic, like you were just having a conversation.
Absolutely. It doesn't look chopped up or, I mean, that's the smart part of talking to them beforehand is a number of them really spent a lot of time thinking about this in advance. And you can tell with Diana that, I mean, she even says it, there was a lot involved in going back and reliving this, and it was not all easy.
Right. So did you find your way through interviewing the other pioneers? Did you find your way as a storyteller, or did you kind of find your focus with it?
I was trying not to be the storyteller.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, the goal was for them to be the storyteller and me to prompt them. For everybody, I wanted to get into the time before I knew them. I mean, I met all of them in the 70s, but you never ask your friends, so what was it like growing up in Pittsburgh, or whatever the thing is. It was odd, but a lot of fun to be able to ask these questions.
Yeah, well, there's a lot to celebrate. And before this bottle gets too warm in this beautiful March sun, I think we should just toast to...
We could do that.
We should toast to all the success. And with our 50th anniversary coming up, I mean, we're going to have a lot of people coming by to visit us throughout the entire year. And when a lot of people come by to visit us at the winery, they often say that they're so impressed by the camaraderie, by the partnerships, by the relationships that were built here throughout the years. Do you ever find that, or did you ever find that you were ever in competition? Or was it always just building the valley together?
You're always in competition, and at least I think many of the others, always looked for ways to collaborate. I mean, if something is happening, let's say we're doing a dinner at our house for an importer from Mexico City, let's say. Well, the first thing I'm going to ask is, who else do you import? We should have them at the dinner too, to make sure that everybody has a chance to interact. And I think, I know I've always done that. I'm sure there's some people whose first thought is not necessarily that, but collaboration is why Oregon, and the Willamette Valley in particular, is where it is on the world stage. And this is getting even warmer.
Yes, so cheers.
Cheers.
Cheers to your 50th. Best way to celebrate is always with bubbles.
Things could always be worse. But, you know, in doing these videos, what's interesting to see is what what common elements get brought up by people. Collaboration certainly comes up, and I specifically asked a number of people, how did that happen, and what was your role in making that happen? And in essence, Diana, and particularly David Lett, probably wasn't super collaborative. He wasn't against it, but he was a more private person in some respects. And so he would include us often because we were good friends. But his first thought wasn't, how many people can we include? And when I asked Diana about collaboration, she moved it to a different place. In the video, she talks about luck and pluck. And I think that was her way, and probably their way, of viewing this, that the collaboration happened, and they were the beneficiaries and sometimes the instigators of it. But others, like Chuck Curry, who was often an impossible person one-on-one, really understood that the industry needed to work together to do research. He really wasn't around long enough as a winery owner to understand that we needed to do the same thing in marketing. But David Lett and Dick Ponzi and I did, I believe, 2 trips to New York City, where we talked to groups, and in one case did a 10-year vertical, that is 30 wines, for wine writers in an upstairs private dining room at Lydia Bastianovich's restaurant. And these people would come to 3 wineries doing a tasting. They might not have showed up for 1 winery doing it.
Right.
And I don't know who instigated that, frankly, but we were all into it, and it obviously was, it happened and was worthwhile because we were all into it.
Mm-hmm. Interesting. Now, there was one point in the video that really struck me, and it was towards the end of the video, and the picture of all the men.
Yeah. No, everybody talks about that. And I mean, obviously I was in the picture, but I don't remember what was going on that day. And I certainly don't remember what Diana said was when the photographer asked everybody to get ready for the photographer, and then added, well, just the winemakers, the men. Mm-hmm. And I mean, in the video with Diana, I basically was shaking my head and saying, that's pathetic. Mm-hmm. And I mean, part of it is, that was 50 years ago or 40 something years ago, and the role of women in the wine business, whether at that level or any place else, was hugely different. Mm-hmm. And in society, for that matter. I mean, it's not something that any man should look back on with pride, but it is where we were in the early 70s, was still more attached to the past than to the future about that.
And I remember one of the first days that I started at Adelsheim, I sat down with you and my immediate supervisor, and one of your questions to me was, how can we help you, a young female in the wine industry, succeed? And that has just resonated through my almost 5 years now at Adelsheim. So what, I think my question is, what piece of advice do you have for the next generation that's trying to make wine more diverse and inclusive? What kind of advice can you give them?
I don't know that I have any advice, except anybody who is interested in wine can succeed in the wine business. Some of it is finding the niche that really makes sense for them. I mean, obviously you started off with us in the cellar. Mm-hmm. and have found this particular role for yourself that I think you're happy with and seems to make sense and you're really good at. But it wasn't the first thing that you did. And I think the good news is that the number of young women coming into the wine business, yes, white young women, but also non-white young women, is increasing. And I think the wine business, at least a lot of parts of it, is trying to be as welcoming as it can be to the idea of these people being part of what we do. The number of winemakers that are women now isn't zero like it once was. It's not 50% yet, but it's in companies like Jackson Family, half the winemakers in Oregon are women. And in the company, it's got to be close to that. Young people with talent who believe in themselves and want to have a future in the wine business are stepping up. And I don't think wineries can make that happen per se, but they certainly can be encouraging and welcoming and willing to adjust how the company works to fit the people that seem to have talent that want to work there.
Excellent. That's always great to hear, because I know Adelsheim has done a great job of making sure that the right people are in the right roles and making sure that we can succeed as a company. So I think that's really encouraging. And I think I have one last question for you, David. And this is one that has been bothering me since my first day at Adelsheim. Yes. We're celebrating our 50th anniversary. You have seen millions and millions of grapes. Can you ever eat a normal table grape?
Oh, every now and then I do.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, Eugenia and I sort of twice a year will buy a bag of table grapes. And it's sort of the first half is kind of a reminder, and it's got to be far away from our harvest. If it was during our harvest, that would be awful.
Never again.
No,
Yeah.
but I mean, buying Chilean grapes in the middle of winter, it's kind of a fun break. But often the last grapes kind of rot before we get to them.
Yeah.
It's an interesting question, actually, because in the run-up to harvest, we're sampling grapes every day. We're out in the vineyard tasting things, trying to understand, and particularly nowadays with global warming and the window of opportunity being narrowed down to which half day do you pick in to get the right balance between not so ripe and yet ripe enough.
Yep.
Which is now a super critical part if we're going to hang on to any part of our past in the Willamette Valley where we didn't make unctuous, overripe wines. So it's a lot of grapes, but I mean, I don't know that I've ever thought to myself when I'm tasting grapes out in the field, oh, I can't taste another. It's part of business.
Right.
I mean, it's what you do.
It's a lifestyle at that point.
Yeah.
It's so nice to be here at Quarter Mile Lane in your backyard, 10 feet plus away from the vines. It's a great way to start a March day.
Yeah.
Thank you so much, David, for sitting down with me and talking about your first video with Diana Lett, and I'm sure we're going to do this again very, very soon.
Okay.
Excellent.
Sounds cool.
Cheers
Thanks.
to you.
Thank you.